This week on the Aviators, wondering if it's too late in life to get into flying? We'll show you that it's never too late to learn to fly. Joe has a chance to ride in the most iconic helicopter of all time, the UH-1 Huey. And Curtis takes to the air with the GEICO Skytypers as he learns to fly in formation.
The Aviators.
Last year, Curtis had a chance to fly the T-6 Texan and experience a little of what it was like for a recruit learning to fly in World War II. Since that time, Curtis has been checked out in the Canadian equivalent of the Texan, the Harvard, and has gained many hours in the venerable warbird. This year, Curtis had a chance to take his flying to a new level and fly formation with the GEICO Skytypers. The Skytypers not only demonstrate military and formation flying tactics in their airshow routine, but rely on flying in precise formation to carry out their signature skytyping. This makes team lead Larry Arkin and all of the Skytyper pilots experts on formation flying.
So Larry, formation flying involves an awful lot more than two airplanes flying close together in the sky. There's a lot of thought and preparation and planning that goes into it. What are some of the basic elements that define what formation flying really is?
Formation flying, to me, starts off with standardization. Everybody has to be doing the same thing in a formation flight so that as an element you can all move symmetrically. So there's a way to get in, as you know, there's a way to stay there, and there's a way to get out. There's also a way to get out if you're in trouble. That standard that's set is something that has to be understood before you put any formation flight together, whether it be two airplanes or you put 6 airplanes as we do in our Delta.
Flying in formation was originally born out of a military need to protect vulnerable aircraft with more nimble or better armed aircraft. From there, different types of formations developed, and the tactical advantages of formation flying became clear. As we learned earlier this season with the B-17, formation flying allowed groups of B-17s to develop defensive fields of fire. Today, most military fighters still operate in pairs at the very least, for reasons that go beyond just the tactical.
Obviously, for the airshow demonstration, we want to be in formation, but when we go in cross countries and we move the airplane around, it's much easier to move us as an element that is together than to have single ship airplanes 3 or 4 miles and trail to each other. Plus, one other thing that's very, very important to both the military and us is mutual support. When you have a wingman, he's your mutual support to give you frequencies, to give you airspace indications, to tell you, hey, you have an airport to your left. Hey, you have an oil leak under your airplane. God forbid you're on fire. He is your extra set of eyes. He gives you that mutual support. So for many reasons, the military and us as well like that whole flavor of the formation flying for the added safety and the value that it gives us.
At its core, formation flying requires a lead aircraft and a wingman. Just like dancing, one aircraft has to lead and one aircraft has to follow. Both aircraft trying to follow could result in a lot worse than stepped-on toes.
So now, what are some of the things or the skills or references you use to actually maintain the position of the aircraft?
You know, what we do as every formation flight is it's done with formation marks. Okay, for every aircraft, what you do is you set up a series of formation marks as we have briefed you. And those marks are the marks that we use to maintain a constant bearing on the airplane you're flying on or constant position.
Basically, we're looking at, like you said, 3 lines of reference. What we use in the Skytypers is pretty much based on what they use in the FAST system. We've just adapted it to our airplanes a little bit. We use this is the inner aileron hinge. We put the inner aileron hinge lined up with the number on the cowl. What we also use is we use the horizontal stab line coming out right here, and that's about 20 degrees.
By referencing 3 points on the other aircraft, it's possible to hold yourself in a set position. For the Skytypers, the main horizontal reference is a bearing line from the inner aileron hinge to the numbers on the cowling of the lead aircraft. For the second horizontal reference, they use the forward edge of the horizontal stabilizer. Where these two lines intersect is where the wingman should be.
So right now, I'm looking at the inside aileron hinge.
Yep.
I see the number.
So that's reasonably lined up for me.
Okay. And then I'm looking over here at the forward edge of the horizontal stabilizer.
I need to come up a little bit to get that together, which brings me in a little bit.
Okay. And then let's kneel down.
Until we can see.
Now, we can't get low enough right now, but this is basically the position you're going to be flying in.
All right.
So what you're going to do is you're going to be looking at all three positions. You're going to be using your lineup with the aileron hinge and the number, put the number on top of the wing. You're going to be looking off of the horizontal stabilizer, give you a basic point out here in space, and then you're going to go vertical enough to see the step on the other side of the airplane, just lined up with the fuselage.
So echelon diamond, it's all the same.
Because the whole system relies on visual references, it's important for the wingman to always be able to see the aircraft that they are forming on. And while it may not look like it from the ground, the wingman always maintains some form of step down from the lead aircraft. This ensures that if the lead were to suddenly fall back for some reason, they would not be going backward into another aircraft. To do this, the Skytypers use the top of the step on the outside wing of the lead aircraft as a vertical reference. Now, because everyone else is basing their movement off the lead aircraft, the lead has to be very conscious of how they fly.
How do you fly differently when you have people on your wings? The actual hands and feet of it.
Typically, I fly smooth anyway.
Okay.
But when you're flying with people on your wing, your movements have to be much slower and much more consistent. I can't take the throttle, for instance, if I want to slow down and just pull the throttle back. I have to ease the throttle back so that everybody has a chance to pull their power back so they don't overrun me. When I start a turn, I have to start the turn by rolling into the turn just a little bit, because I don't tell them whether I'm turning left or right usually. I just start to turn. So the way they know that is if I just start to ease into the turn, they'll go, okay, boss is turning left, let me increase the power, let me start running the bearing line, and then I can increase the roll rate once I know that they've had their power set. So it's a little bit of I send them a message, either by my movements or by changes in trend, and they pick up on that change in trend.
In an echelon, or say a V formation of more than 3 aircraft, the outside aircraft form up on the inside aircraft, not on the lead. For example, here Curtis in number 6 is flying off references on number 2. Number 2 is, of course, flying off of number 1. So if number 2 moves around a lot, and Curtis then tries to compensate to stay on number 2, the whole formation can start to move around like a whip. This is part of the reason why everyone maintaining position is so important. The basic references mentioned so far are all for the delta and echelon formations. But the Skytypers are famous for skytyping, putting out digital messages in the sky the height of the Empire State Building and 8 miles long at almost 10,000 feet. This requires a unique formation.
It's a line abreast formation, which is obviously not as unique, but what's very unique about it is it's a very big formation. When you fly formation, it's actually easier to fly close. People go, oh wow, you're so close. It's actually much easier to fly close because you can see all the movements much quicker. When we do our front line or line abreast formation for skytyping, there's 2 things that are unique. First of all, it's almost 3 wingspans apart, so the movements when we're sitting out there are a lot slower to see, so it's a lot harder. We do that because we want to increase the size of the letter and get the letter to look right. The other thing that's a little bit different is we don't look to be absolutely level. The guys on the inside fly a tad high so that the guy on the outside can see underneath them. Why is that important? Because everybody's flying off the lead airplane with the computer to keep the letter straight. So when you get out far, if this guy is moving around a little bit, we don't want this guy whipsawing out here and moving around even more, so he stays on number 1 aircraft or the lead aircraft. So if this guy's moving around a little bit, he might move, but the other guy's going to be solid because he's still working off lead. So it creates 2 things. Instead of flying off your wingman, we're referencing our wingman, but we're flying off the lead aircraft. We're in a much wider formation, which makes it harder to fly, and we're a little bit staggered on our height so we can see underneath the airplanes and yet keep everybody in sight.
For not just riding in the back, but flying from the front seat of the Skytypers aircraft, Curtis received the coveted Skytypers patch and a whole new appreciation for their formation flying.
I'll wear it proudly.
For a great job. So what'd you think of today's event?
That was a lot of fun. It's pretty intense. You know, when we're sitting there and Tom is there and Ken's leading, it's a lot more going on, a lot more to look at.
Yep.
One of the things that amazes me is how much you must trust your guys that you fly with. You guys are flying in such unforgiving places. I think the people that watch you fly, whether it's really up high, but probably even more so when you're doing your airshow routine down low, really tight together, I think it's hard to imagine from the outside when it looks so delicate and it looks like a ballet, how much work is actually happening in the cockpits to make it look that easy.
You know, but you did a great job. It was great to fly with you. My inputs into you, you took the inputs, you made the corrections that were needed. And it's just great to see someone that did not only a great job, but eats this up the way we do.
Oh man.
I saw your grin almost from the back seat shooting out from your helmet.
I bet Ken could see it from Lee when I pulled up there, and I took a deep breath for a second. It was like this big grin.
If the sun was out, he would have had shining teeth. It would have been very hard to see.
Yeah, you've made my month. There's no doubt about that. Thanks, guys. Thanks a lot.
job.
That was really fantastic.
Seasons 1 to 4 of The Aviators are now available on DVD and Blu-ray. For more information on today's segments, visit www.theaviators.tv. From our official home at the Whitman Regional Airport in Oshkosh, Wisconsin, we'll see you next week on The Aviators.